Mwah! Welcome to Nightmares and Scares. My name is Matt, and with me, as always, is.
Dan the Horror Man.
Mwah! Welcome to Nightmares and Scares, everyone. Uh, it's the show that invites you to grab your popcorn and your PJs and go to a place where every day is Halloween. A boy's best friend is his mother, and that monster under your bed, it's absolutely real. Um, we are doing something a little different today, Dan. We're not talking about a movie. We are actually going to go into the first of many, hopefully many, different type of things that we do on the show. And this, what better way than to start off with a good old fashioned countdown? I myself love countdowns. I'm going to be pushing for us to do countdowns as often as I can without it seeming like too much. So we're going to get into what we're talking about today in just a moment, but I wanted to just something occurred to me this morning. For those of you who don't know, I am an independent filmmaker, and I'm currently working on a movie project. And and maybe I'll put the link to some of that stuff, the Facebook page and stuff, in the bio if anyone's interested. But we talk about horror and our love for it, and how it impacts us and influences our lives. Um, and it's funny. I had mentioned we had talked about when we did 28 Days Later that I had made a movie called The Infected way back in the day that had kind of been inspired by the 28 Days Later movie. Well, today, we were working. I shot a scene this morning and took it to my brother's studio, and we were editing and working on stuff, and just something jumped out at me that I hadn't initially put together. But you want to talk about the way horror and certain movies influence us and impact us, especially us who create. Um, so I want to show you two real quick clips. One is a clip of an actual movie. Hopefully, we don't get flagged for copyright. It's only 6 seconds long. I'm really hoping they don't flag us, but if so, oh well. Um, and the other is a very raw, uh, 12-second clip of my upcoming film. This is the first clip that anyone outside of the production has seen. So this is kind of big, but it hasn't been colored. There's no music behind it. It's very, like I said, very raw, bare bones. But just to see if you can kind of put the connection together that I put together this morning. So first, I'm going to show you a 6-second clip from Halloween H2O. This is right after Jamie Lee Curtis has caught her son Josh Hartnett out and about when he's not supposed to be, and she yells at him and uses the F word, and he's like, "Mom, I'm really not comfortable with you using that word." So let's watch this clip real quick.
Mom, I'm really uncomfortable with you saying that
Well,
word.
then don't put me in the position, John. Do you know what day it is?
Super quick, super short. But now I'm going to show you, and it's filmed from so you see the computer, so you don't see the whole clip. The whole it's not full screen. But now I'm going to show you the first ever 12-second clip of a movie that I'm working on.
Sorry. Spare me the bullshit. Pot is for losers. It fries your brain.
I know. You've told me all of this before.
Well, then don't put me in the position where I have to tell you again, Dylan.
Anyone catch that? Then don't put me in the position. That is a direct, because I know myself, and I know the only reason I would have written that is because I had heard it so many times in Halloween H2O. So that's just a cool little thing I thought I'd share real quick, that, how horror and movies in general.
You might as well share, man. Like, what's your favorite horror movie franchise over here
Oh,
at this moment?
without a doubt, Halloween. So of course, it's not just any horror film or any film. Halloween, of course, is the one that impacted me, and Halloween H2O is by far my favorite of the Halloween sequels. So when I watched that this morning and heard him say, well, don't put me in the position, I immediately called back to, oh, I've heard Jamie Lee Curtis say this. Well, don't put me in the position, John. And my line is, well, don't put me in the position, Dylan. So anyway, just a cool little segment I thought I'd share and tie in. That was a very first clip of the movie Hyde that I am working on. There will be more to come on the show, and it'll be more, official next time we show something from that. But anyway, Dan, how are you, sir?
I mean, so far so good. I'm really excited to get a sneak peek in what you've been working on. I know Matt has had a love of movies and wanted to put one together, and this is going to be probably the most effort that you put into a production thus far. I know you've written tons of scripts before, and really excited to see this come together for you. But excited to be here with you guys. Just a quick shout out, ton of new subscribers off the last couple of videos, whether you were in with us on Abigail or if you came in on an interview with the devil, or perhaps you were with us in interview with the vampire.
I was gonna say Interview with the Devil. You mean Late Night with the Devil?
Late night with the devil. See, I am like so just hyper fixated on this interview with the vampire. I'm just trying not to mess that up. It's just kind of driven me to that. But thank you for joining along. A lot of new subscribers, and thank you for your comments. I know there are a couple notes that you guys were giving us for those who had read the book. And my wife is currently reading the book from that, and she's letting me know that there is a ton of changes from the book to the screen, and it's definitely very interesting to see what they omitted and what they've added. I know that apparently in the book, Lestat's father is still alive, like he's in his 70s. There's a brother that's there, so there's definitely a lot more behind the scenes. But overall, like my wife's saying, I just picture these characters as Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. Like, there's no way for me to imagine it any other way now. So she says that those two characters from the movie still she feels fit this, but that it's different, and she actually does prefer the book so far better. And she
Wow.
really loves the movie, so definitely saying something for her. So thank you guys for joining us, and really excited to get into this first countdown of hopefully many.
So today we talked about it last week, and we've kind of hinted at it the last couple episodes. Today we are talking or counting down the top 5 scariest horror movie children. Uh, we had talked about The Omen with Damien. We had talked about Abigail, the little ballet vampire. I feel like there was someone else in there that I'm forgetting, but we've definitely had a few movies so far along the way where there's some scary little kids. And let's be honest, some of the scariest things in horror films are kids and old people. So today we're counting down our top 5. I have a couple of uh, honorable mentions. I don't know, Dan, did you have any of those at all?
Yep, I did.
Okay, do we want to do honorable mentions first, or do we want to do honorable mentions right before we announce our number one, or how do we
How
want to?
many honorable mentions are you getting into?
I've got 3.
Okay.
Um, so how do you want to play this?
Well, I've got 2, so let's let you go first, then I'll go, then you go, then I go, then you go, and then we'll
Okay.
get into the lists. I think that would be the easiest thing
So
to
just one honorable mention, then you go, and then
do. I
back
think
and forth.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
I imagine
So
we're gonna have some overlap in this, people. I mean, as far as kids in the horror industry go, like they're actually fewer than you would think that
yeah,
really stand
I
out.
I
So
realized that too. I was like, huh, I feel like there's tons, but then I was really like researching. I was like, there's like 6. So it's
stand out. Yes, sir.
so honorable mention for me. Um, again, this is one that I felt I wanted to include, but didn't really fit the top 5. And really, it's in a film that uh, he's not his presence is there throughout the whole film, but he's not the scary little kid throughout the whole film. Not really till the end. I'm talking about Gage from Pet Cemetery. This little boy uh, tragically gets hit by a truck. Spoilers, I guess, in the movie, And, the whole premise of Pet Cemetery is that the dead don't stay dead. And, his father takes him to this grave site where, they've buried a cat and it's come back to life. Basically anything that gets buried here resurrects. But when it resurrects, it's not the same as it once was. So the father, is heartbroken and grief stricken and takes his deceased little boy and buries him in the pet cemetery. And then the boy rises from the grave and uh, you know, causes a little bit of havoc. I think murders at least one person. So that is my first honorable mention. Dan, what do you got?
So to round this off, I think that in the world of horror, there really aren't a lot of people that are more iconic or that stand out than Regan from The Exorcist. And what makes her so exciting, or like her character so tragic, really, is that it's just a little girl who is possessed by a demon. We get to follow her story as she's exorcised, and really see her take on like all kinds of mind bending things, levitation, head twirling, projectile vomiting. And really, it's hard to think of probably a child actor that's more iconic. And I think that in the world of horror movies, she definitely at least deserves an honorable mention. And we might see her again on Matt's list. I'm just saying.
Just might. Um, so my next honorable mention is one that is I'm kind of pulling that like not many people would think of when they think of scary children, because he wasn't really a small child. He was like a teenager, young adult. I'm referring to Kevin from We Need to Talk About Kevin, played by Ezra Miller. I don't know if you've seen this film, Dan, but it is very disturbing. And Ezra Miller gives a performance that is extremely creepy and weird and just made me feel uncomfortable watching. So I went with Kevin from We Need to Talk About Kevin as another honorable mention for me.
Okay. Um, well, when we're talking about unsettling, one that kind of comes to mind here, make sure I had his name correct before I started. Isaac Kroner from Children of the Corn. We really don't know too much
Oh,
about
Isaac?
his, or Isaac, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Isaac.
Okay.
So calling him from the Children of the Corn, he's very, very, very freaking creepy. He incites the children to rise against the adults. They meet gruesome, terrifying endings. But it's just terrifying, honestly. You see, again, innocence led astray, to turn on, the folks that are supposed to be their caregivers and just, massacre them and anybody that happens to happen upon where they are. Truly traumatic. So, again, another one that deserves a big shout out here.
Good pick. Good pick. My final honorable mention that couldn't quite make the list, but would have if we had gone like top 10 or something, um, is Samara from The Ring. You want to talk about another creepy little girl? I think anyone who was alive back when this movie was brand new and watched it for the first time uh, remembers when she first came out of that TV. That is terrifying. At least it was back then. It's been many, many years since I've watched it, but I remember that stuck with me. And whenever someone says The Ring, I always think about that moment of her coming out of the television because you just didn't expect it. I mean, nowadays you might expect something like that because of that movie, but back then you hadn't seen anything like that. So it was the last thing that was on your mind that, this girl from this videotape they were watching was going to ready to pop out of the television. Um, and that, because you only had two, right? So that sums up the honorable mentions. So since I went last, Dan, I'm going to let you go first with your number 5 scariest horror movie child.
So for this one, a little bit different. I actually went with a group of children, and no, not Children of the Corn, though. Definitely a little bit more creepy in my mind. The children from the Village of the Damned. So when we're talking about these guys, all of their mothers, and actually everybody in the town went unconscious. And then there was this type of immaculate conception. They all wake up. Doctors come and check them out. They can't explain it. They all seem to be healthy. And then down the line, they all give birth at the exact same time to these platinum haired children. And they grow at an accelerated rate. And their biggest things are one, they can read people's minds, which is terrifying in and of itself, especially if they're not not the greatest or have hidden intentions. But then they're also able to manipulate people into doing certain things, um, killing themselves if need be. And I think it's just the idea of one like as humans, I think this is kind of the subplot, like the course of evolution, or were they alien, or what was going on with them. But the fact that they existed and their true intent was not always known or really known, and then just how terrifying it could be when they could again control the adults, wipe them out, and all that good stuff. So that's why they placed number 5 on my list.
I just want to say that's I- one of my favorite horror films. And it's not. I recognize that it's not really like the greatest movie. I actually just recently. When was the last time you watched this?
Dude, it I was probably like 20, so it's been years.
Okay, well, I watch it at least once a year. I actually just watched it uh, a couple weeks ago. I can't even make it up. I watched it just a couple weeks ago, and I mean, and in the beginning, you're just like, "Wow, this really doesn't hold up." But then once you get into it, you're into it, and it's so good. I mean, Christopher Reeve, God bless his soul, God, he's so good, and Mark Hamill is in this in a very underrated performance. We got Kirstie Alley, so a lot of star power in this, and it's John Carpenter, John freaking Carpenter. Halloween, The Thing, did this Village of the Damned, which actually is a remake. But this is for my money, I prefer the Carpenter version. Um, so my number 5 is a it's kind of a slippery slope because we're counting down the top 5 scariest horror movie children. This one appears to be a child, but actually isn't. I'm referring to, of course, Esther from Orphan. I remember when this came out, I was blown away with the twist that she was a full-grown adult, and of course, the actress herself was a child, but the way they made her up, like, as she's, like, wiping off the makeup and, toward the end there, like, she looked full-grown adult, like, there's a scene, like, when she's looking at herself in the mirror and, like, oh, she's, like, 40 or something, but no, I was actually still just a little girl playing an adult. Um, she was a little girl playing an adult who was playing a little girl, if you wanna get kinda meta there. Um this is another one that I really enjoy. I don't watch it. I watch it. I go back to it every couple years, I'd say. It's still just it's fun, it's scary. It's really what you think of when you think of scary movie children because she's the one that might be standing over you as you're sleeping in the middle of the night, ready to attack. Or, if you've got other kids in the house, like in this movie, you don't know what she might do. So Esther is my pick for number 5.
Okay. So like you, when we talk about slippery slopes, as far as people that aren't actually, children, one that really comes to mind in the horror franchise, to me at least, as a young adult or teenager, would be Carrie. And you think about this young lady who's tormented at school. She's dealing with a fanatic for a mother when she gets home. So her mental stability, starting out, it's not that great. And she's very meek, mild mannered in the beginning. And when things start to push her, when she's dunked in blood, she's made fun of, and she's pushed to her absolute limit, she just wreaks havoc on the world around her, and for lack of better terminology, brings hell on earth to those kids at that dance. And she's sets fires with her mind. She's murdering folks with her mind, and this is all after her mother had tried to kill her, and ultimately she, wasn't successful. So Carrie really has nothing else to hold her back. She's just pushing through, and really takes the cake, I think, as number 4 on my list at least.
Good deal, good deal. Carrie is another great one. John Travolta got his got basically his start there. Love that movie. My number 4 has actually already been mentioned. As one of your honorable mentions, I am, of course, talking about Isaac from Children of the Corn. This is another movie where if you go back and watch, you're like, "Ugh, this doesn't really hold up," but it's still so good.
I don't know if you
And
just like look at that picture you have posted there, and he's like staring at you.
staring into my
I would have the
soul.
heebie-jeebies right there.
And he's such a good actor, and they brought him back for the 6th film, which I've not yet seen. Maybe one day, I don't know if you've seen it. Maybe we'll cover that at one point because that would be fun. Because 'cause I've only ever seen the first Children of the Corn, and then I've seen the 2009 TV remake they did, and then I've seen, like, one other random remake or reboot they did, but, none of the original sequels I've seen. So, like, that I look forward to maybe one day visiting those and maybe seeing Isaac's return, in the 6th movie. That would be fun. But Isaac is creepy, and the fact that he's this cult leader, and, and then they at the end, they try to turn him over to they try to, give him to, he who walks behind the rose. They put him up on the little cornstalk cross thing and try to sacrifice him, only for him to Isaac to come back and, Malachi. It's, it's a fun times. Dan, who do you got for number 3?
Uh, Number 3, I think we're starting to run into a little bit of overlap here with who we think is kind of the scariest, but just in line with your thinking, Esther from The Orphan. Giving her another hit here. She plays, like you said, a little girl playing a woman, playing a little girl very well. And I agree when she takes her makeup off, that transformation that they had that the makeup department ended up doing with her, phenomenal. Honestly, freaky. And I think the thing that was unsettling the most about all of this is that again in the beginning it portrays like a sense of innocence, and then you start to see the cracks where the was it the bird, I think she ends up killing a bird, and
Yeah.
then just progressively gets stranger and stranger up to the point where she's very protective and attached to the husband in the house. And like by that point you're like, what the hell is going on here? And then you come to the realization that she wasn't a little girl the entire time. But as far as horror children go, perfect. Not going to find too many that'll top her here.
Yeah. No. In fact, yeah, you're right. Yeah, she's a little low on my list at a number 5. I mean, she's in the top 5, but, like, she's arguably a little low on my list. She probably could be higher, but, I don't know, man. These next couple that I got, I feel really strong about. My number 3, is one that probably no one's expecting. I didn't really expect it myself until I went through, Google search, like, horror movie children and had to, like, refresh myself of who all they were, and I was like, "Oh, yes." So, funny enough, Dan, you, me, and your wife all watched a American version remake of a certain film not that long ago, and I say not that long ago, it was about a year ago, and, I called the 2. I had never seen the original, but when we were watching, I called the twist right then and there. I was like, "Oh, the there's 2 boys and one of them isn't actually there." one of them is dead or something. And I thought that American version was just trash. I did not like it, and I'd heard so much good things about this original version. So I went back and watched the foreign film original, and I gotta tell you, that makes my number 3, Elias from Goodnight Mommy, the boy that was actually alive. um, because when this film gets going, it gets going. And unlike the American version, it is everything the American version is and more. It is sick, it is twisted, and that little boy has some problems. Um, more than just the fact that he's seeing his dead brother. so
It's a pretty big problem to have, though. You got to give them that credit.
yeah.
Eh,
So that is my number 3.
okay. I mean, this is going to go, which is strange that we're kind of headed in the same direction. I would say that my number 2 pick is a movie that you introduced me to back in the day, and is played by none other than the same actor that plays Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. And this is, of course, we're talking about the character Henry Evans from The Good Son. And what I think has driven me to a lot of these is that it's just that feeling of innocence that you get. And to his um, parents, nice as pie, sweet as pie. I mean, even to his aunt, it's just like, hey, I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. But when everybody's back is turned, he is anything but, and he is evil and he is malicious, and he casts blame. But not only that, at one point he's like throwing a freaking dummy over the overpass onto like passing cars and causing pile-ups and all this good stuff. And I think that in the end, like, what it's not even just this, like his character, but even the end of the end, the moral dilemma that you know she's faced with, hanging on to both of them, like having to choose one of the over the other, and instead of choosing her son, she doesn't. She just
One
lets
of
him.
one of my
"Ah!"
favorite one of my favorite endings of a movie of all time.
Yeah,
Of all
I mean,
time.
and he's like, "What are you doing? Where you at? Like, where you pull me up? Like, da da da." Like, he just expected that he
Yeah.
was going to be saved. He
You
up to
sure
the
you
end.
surely don't expect her to drop him. Somehow, either she's gonna go over or she's gonna get both of them pulled up. Someone else is gonna come help. You just don't expect her to let go. It's
Hate
one
to
of
see
my
it, but at the same time, didn't really hurt my feelings too much. I'm
yeah,
just
it's such a good movie and oh, if you haven't seen The Good Son, go out of your way to find it. Um, wow, that was your number 2. We're almost done this. Um, my number 2 has already been mentioned, and it was originally my number 1, but then I had to shift a couple things just because I think what my number 1 is stands out more to me than this, but it's damn close. Uh, my number 2 is Reagan McNeil from The Exorcist. Um, you want to talk about iconic, you want to talk about terrifying, you want to talk about scary. This little girl gets possessed by a demon, and you see everything, as Dan said, from projectile vomit, from levitating, turning the heads. If you watch the extended version, she's crawling down the steps, backwards, and we're not even going to talk about the scene with the crucifix. It's just, or yeah, with the cross. It's just, it's unforgettable, and it's one that I watch every year around Halloween time. It's one that you got to go back to. It's iconic. It's classic. It set the standard for horror films. Really, this was 1970. Horror films obviously had been around, but it set a new tone of what was going to come. Not only with the demonic possession genre, but just horror overall. So Reagan and Linda Blair, as you mentioned, what an actress! She was so young to do such a role like that. Great stuff.
I mean, to your point, like the formula they use in this movie as far as like possessed, and then also like as far as the exorcism in and of itself has been so repeated throughout the decades following this that there really is not much straying from that formula. Like if there's a demonic presence, there usually is always the exorcist that's in there too, and it's just the battle of good and evil, and it's something that
Yep.
no matter
And
what
there's
when it
nothing that's
is.
it's the oldest story of all time, going back to the days of the Bible, and it still works to this day. It still holds up. Battle of good and evil. You create any story, whether you're writing a book, you're writing a movie, any TV show, any story, or even if you're just sitting around a campfire, the best stories are those of just good versus evil. Um, Dan, we're at number one.
Scary.
Crazy we're here so quickly. I say so quickly, it's been a half hour.
Yeah.
But but we're here. What is your number one scariest horror movie child?
So in the last couple days, I've had to rethink this a little bit, Matt, and I'll tell you why. So being around talking about Interview with the Vampire, seeing the Abigail movie, I think a lot of things have kind of pushed me into one. I really do enjoy the mythos of vampires, period. I think that it's great. I think it's awesome. And I thought about, how much fun I had watching the Abigail movie. I even considered Megan. I think like that's just a fun film. I don't know what it is, like just seeing a robotic little girl chasing people down the hallway and doing flips and cartwheels and coming after them to kick their butt, kill them. It's fun to me. I don't know. I'm weird like that. So I started thinking about vampires and I thought about, Claudia, creepy, but sad. And I started thinking about that. And then I started thinking about like the moral dilemma. I don't know why. I'm just pulled to that kind of. So the one that I landed on finally was Ellie from Let the Right One In.
Really?
And yes. So, and as a character, I don't think she's necessarily like a totally evil, like just out there to murder you, but if you get on her bad side, she absolutely is. And we're talking about a little girl who had been turned centuries ago. I think her backstory is pretty tragic, and she ends up befriending this boy who's getting bullied, and they happen to be in the same area, and they build a friendship. And again, it's like on the surface, you're she's just a nice little girl. She's trying to be friendly, and then you find out, she's a carnivorous monster that's going after the boys and wrecking them. And it's just again that much power, centuries old vampire in the form of a child, and then also befriending a child. I just find it's creepy to me. It just really is. Like if Abigail had little friends that were actually human, that were children, that would be really freaky to me. And it's like and there probably is or will be other movies like this that have that similar thing going on, but that's one of the rules, right? You don't turn children into vampires,
Right.
and it's another film that did. So, really super creepy.
It's a great movie. I remember watching that for the first time, and I was just blown away how great it was. Um, and I'm of course talking about Let the Right One In, not the American remake Let Me In. You
Yeah.
know. Um, okay, so my number one, uh, call me basic, call me not thinking outside the box, but when I think of children in scary movies that frightened me, that stuck with me, that I've had actual nightmares about, I've got to go to the movie that I still probably regard as, we talked about Halloween being my favorite franchise. This is probably my favorite horror film of all time.
I'm gonna
And I am
guess. Can I take a guess?
sure.
I'm gonna say Hereditary.
Hmm. It's a solid choice, but that's not it.
Oh,
I'm thinking more classic. Uh, these, and it's more than one. These children
um,
Just want you to come and play with him, Danny.
And
Forever and ever and ever. Oh god, I'm getting the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. The Grady twins from The Shining.
woo!
Dear dear God, they are terrifying. They are what stuck one of the things that stuck with me the very first time I watched that movie at a very young age, too young to be watching it. I watched it on TV, I think it was on TNT or something, and I recorded it because that was what you did back in the day, and just watched it over and over and over again.
And I don't mean to be rude, and I don't want to offend anybody if you are a twin, but there's something inherently creepy just about twins, and they just push that so hard here. So I agree that is
And
a
they're and
big
they're
thing.
hardly they're hardly in the movie, they're in, like, 3 scenes, but I mean, think of how much they've, ascended into pop culture and to our world. I mean, people still dress up at these as these twins at conventions. The actresses are still doing appearances. You how many times do when people talk about horror films do they say, "Oh, forever and ever and or come and play with us"? It's so ooh, like just this their little accent and they just appear there, and then you see them. They see what Danny, the little boy in the movie, sees what happened to them. They were chopped up with the axe by their dad. It was it's some gruesome, terrifying stuff, and it sticks with you. Like especially at a young age, it never leaves you. Certain things are imprinted on you, and that was one of them for me.
Just The
So
Shining in general, just
yeah, um,
nothing more you can really say. Is like you say, The Shining. If you were worth your salt, you know about you know about the Overlook Hotel, you know about all this. So
yeah. So that wraps up our countdown, our very first countdown, our top
woo!
5 scariest horror movie children. How do you feel, Dan? I feel pretty good about this.
I mean, it was interesting to see some of your thoughts, and I think in retrospect, like to get inside my own head a little bit about this, but kind of like I consider creepy in terms of children. And again, man, you just put a kid in a horror movie, it just seems like you're gonna have some kind of gold there. I know we didn't talk about like Georgie. I know we didn't talk about a lot the little vampire children. I know we didn't talk about. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot out
Yeah,
there.
so Georgie was one that I thought about early on about putting, because especially from the obviously the 2017 remake, there's that scene where he's in the basement and "You'll float too, you'll float." That's creepy. But then, we didn't talk about Damien. We did a
At all.
whole thing on The Omen on our first
Well, I'm
episode.
gonna be honest with you because I thought about Damien. And honestly, he's not that creepy to me. Like he seemed throughout the movie to be just a regular kid, though mischievous and like temper
Mhm.
tantrumy. But there wasn't really that until the very end. Like the very last shot was the scariest part that I
Right.
had from him.
I
And
agree.
that might have been different with other like the Omen movies and things like that. But it was more the events around him were the driving factors in that. So.
I agree. I agree. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think. Who were your scariest horror movie children? Did we leave one out that you think should be included in this list, or did we name some of yours? Let us know in the comments below. Again, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Take a look around the channel, see what else we might have talked about that you might be into. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you get alerted each and every time we post a new video. We do this a couple times a week. And what we're doing next, Dan, we've talked about the Antichrist. We've talked about Satan himself. We've talked about uh, vampires and cabins, and we've kind of been all over the place with this genre already. But the one thing, shockingly, we haven't done is talk about a slasher film. How do you talk about horror without slasher? That's like the bones of horror. You get your Freddy Kruegers and your Michael Myers and your Jasons and that's kind of like when people think of horror, that at least that's what a lot of people go to. Um,
And this is a fact, guys, that Matt's favorite franchise in horror is Halloween. My favorite franchise in horror is Scream.
Mm,
Both are slashers.
yeah.
So yeah, why are we beating around the bush on this?
So yeah, we are like what 8 episodes in, and we haven't done a slasher film yet. Well, that's going to change because we're going to be talking about urban legend. And you're thinking that's the one you're going to go with first? Yes, because we're going to make you wait for that good stuff, don't you know? Urban Legend is currently streaming on Pluto TV or is available to purchase on Amazon Prime, Vudu, Fandango, wherever you buy your movies. This is a 90s slasher film, run of the mill, nothing extraordinary about it, but it's got some star power. Joshua Jackson, Jared Leto. To talk about Freddy Krueger, it's got Robert Englund in it. Um, some fun stuff. I'm looking forward to see what we all think about this.
So, yep, man. I mean, Matt's already said it. He said it best, and he said it a million times. So I'm not going to change the formula, guys. What do you have to say to our viewers to sign us off, Mister Matt?
Everyone have a great week. We'll catch you next time, and until then, we'll see you in your nightmares.